Hi, and welcome to Slayer Night Crafts. Today I'm going to be working on a card using Fawn's Dandy Day stamp set, as well as the slide on over die and the outside in stitched clouds. So for this card, I decided to use some adorable little pieces I'd covered previously and have that little mouse slide across the card. Now, I wanted to go ahead and pick my colors for the cloud stencil and for the stenciling on the grass. So you can see I have my little swatches that I use of my Lawn Fawn stamps to kind of decide what colors are going to work best. So originally I was going to use two colors, mermaid and kiddie pool, to give a little bit of depth. But as you're going to see here, I'm using the Picket Fence life-changing brushes. And when I load up my brushes and I go to start inking, you are going to see that the kiddie pool, which I'm using here, as the color starts building, you're going to see it's not quite the color that I would have expected. So as the color builds here, you're going to see it's kind of muddy. It's a little brown. And what I didn't even realize at this point was that my brushes were dirty and I was getting that muddy color because I had a previous color of ink still left in the brushes. So as I'm going along, it gets a little cleaner, but again, I'm still at this point not quite sure what's going on. So this is the point when I realize that something has gone awry. I wanted to do a light blue dusting across the cloud, and I'm realizing that the color is nowhere near what I'm expecting. And I actually end up ruining two of the clouds that I had cut out. And what I end up discovering is that, this is where I discover my brushes are not really clean. At a certain point, I even swipe a paper towel across the ink to figure out, is something wrong with my ink? Is this the right color? And in all fairness, after that, I absolutely went and ordered the colored handled brushes on Amazon. Now here I'm using the wavy banner die because it is perfect for these sentiments that come with the Dandy Day stamps. You'll see off to the right that I attempted to do the sending wishes, but that didn't quite work out the way I expected. And so there is a little bit of finagling that I do later in the video to deal with how do I get that sentiment back onto my card. So I have all of my pieces in place. I have the dandelions, the little mice, and I'm at this point just kind of playing with the layout, seeing what I can fit and where. And just a tiny bit of commentary here. I know I have funny things drawn on my hands. And while we are in our current situation, my daughter and I have been trying to have a little bit of fun. And we had these great little tattoo pens is what they're called. And she drew on mommy, I drew on her. And they really are tattoo pens because those were a couple showers ago that those were put on, and they're just not coming off. So I apologize for the state of my hands in this video. You can see there I wanted to put the mouse that's blowing the dandelion because I love him so much. Reminds me of my little girl who, ever since she was a tiny baby, loved to blow those dandelions when she found them. But there's just not room in the card. And one of the other considerations is I'm not just doing a slide over, I'm going to make it so that he spins. And with that in mind, I have to be careful about how much I place around him because I don't want him getting stuck. So I went with a little more simplistic layout for the card here. So I changed my mind about the slider I was going to use. I figured if I was going to be taking some elements away, I wanted to give my little mouse a little more room to glide around and space things out a little bit. So I ended up grabbing the larger, more wavy slide on over die. And you can see I'm playing with that rubber stamp because, like I said, when I stamped it on the banner, I realized it just wasn't going to fit. So I'm trying to figure out where I'm going to put it on the card. So I've got the placement approximately for my slide on over channel. So I go ahead and cut that out. And I chose a blue background because I thought that would be kind of nice going around the edges of my card. And that little piece I cut out, I decided that I would attempt to glue behind the track so that it kind of hides it and I don't see this bright periwinkle color coming out from behind there. So I try to get everything lined up and then just kind of with the adhesive on the back, just place that right back in there. So I'm getting ready to put together my slider mechanism. I'm using the round foam because I want it to be able to turn as opposed to just slide back and forth. And I'm doubling up on it here to give it the thickness it's going to need. And I take my powder tool after I get everything on. I'm going to take my powder tool and go around just to get rid of any additional stickiness that might be there. And I'm testing it in the track and everything's going great at this point. So I grab my adorable little mouse and I go to stick him on. And surprise, surprise, the penny is too big. Here is where my slider card gets more expensive than most. I end up using a dime. It's a little smaller. I've got a die cut that will fit over it. And in all fairness, I think the silver of it works a little bit better in case, any part of it is exposed in the card because, the copper kind of would stand out a little more. So I've got my little guy on there and my first test, and I'm so excited because it's moving terrifically. And I'm going ahead and just putting a little extra powder everywhere because I saw it on the video. It said that it made it go a little more smoothly on the track. So I've got that all in place. And now I am ready to do the foam squares. So you'll see I kind of pre-cut them previously. It was for the penny, so I'm gonna have a little extra room. But I'm just kind of sliding everything around just to see where my boundaries are and where to place the foam. So I'm ready to start assembling the card, and I've got my foam squares to pop up my grass and allow for my dandelion flower and my little mice to get tucked behind. So I've got that placed, and then I grab my little flower, get that in just the right spot, and of course figure out where my little mouse with her little baby, which I absolutely think is so adorable. And with the composition of this, I liked the idea of them both looking up and watching this poor hapless mouse who, in my mind is stuck on the wind, holding on to this dandelion, just floating around at the mercy of the wind. So I have all my foam pieces together and I grab my backing paper and I try to get it lined up as close as possible for the track that we have stuck on the back of that blue paper to kind of hide everything. and just pressing that in really well and playing, making sure everything still works as expected, which it does, and it's super cute. And of course, I've got the little banner, and I realize I did not stamp my sentiment. So I grab my Misty and I decide, even though this is already propped up with foam, I'm going to try and stamp this. I take out that extra piece, so I'm using it as I would for any red rubber mounted stamp. And I'm going to pray that I can stamp this and get it on there. You're going to see I'm pressing in, and when I lift up very carefully, I see, nope, that last part, wishes, it is not stamping down. You could see I'm missing almost that whole word. So I decide I'm going to be clever, and I am just going to, between my pieces, stick some foam in there to give it a little bit of, something to stamp against. And it's working. There's a little bit of backing there, and I'm pressing in pretty hard. And it's not perfect, but it is salvageable. It kind of worked. I was tricky. So now I am ready to put the second sentiment on my adorable little wavy banner here, which I decide to pop up with some foam tape. And I'm just going to have it hang off the edge a little bit. And, this card, I think it's just so adorable. And I love playing with it. Just seeing the little mouse go back and forth spinning. It's just terrific. So I'm mounting it on a simple white card base here and just using my tape runner to stick it down and trying to get it as centered as possible. I'm not always the best at getting them centered right on there, but I think it turned out pretty cute.